Hello, everyone. Are we live? Can you hear us? If you can put your message on the chat, just give us a nudge out there. We'll know that you can hear us. Um, okay, I think we are audible. Yep. So yeah, hello everyone. With me today is Ramki. For those, he's a pretty popular face in the tech industry. But for those who don't know about Ramki is the co-founder of Zeta. Okay, Zeta is a modern banking solution, and beyond Zeta, there's an interesting data point that a lot of people might not know. Ramki was one of the co-founding members when CodeChef was started. Okay, he played a very integral part back in 2009, and supported us for a very long time. He has been a sister company of CodeChef, and it was a part of Directi Group. And coming on to Zeta, it's a modern banking solution, and it's popular for kind of giving solutions to the financial institutions, be it banks, new banks, fintechs, and all. With its new product Tachyon Suite, they aim to kind of provide a modular debit, prepaid, and loan processing solution with an integrated mobile app. And this sounds like a lot, and the team that is making it work, the leader of that team is with us today. Feel free to keep putting in your questions. This is really great. We have a good audience out there, so yeah, over to you, Ramki. Can you, just introduce yourself to the audience once? Yeah.
Hi, Majid. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to meet the fellow co-chefers. I think, hi, everyone. Really good to meet you today and talk about Zeta Tech and any questions you may have. I mean, I'm looking forward to this opportunity ever since I had CodeChef reach out to me for this, and I'm very glad to be here. Yeah.
We are equally glad and thankful, to you for coming on board as a part of Conversations with CodeChef.
Yeah.
So I think, we have received a bunch of questions from our community. Okay, they are around, a bunch of things related to Zeta, around the fintech industry, around getting placed, developing skills and all. So, and around competitive programming as well, of course. So we'll be covering all of them. I have a wonderful team who has been supporting me today. So let me acknowledge them first. I have Karan, Arslan, Sukanya, Shutali, and Shelly, who's working on the back end, the team who's making it work. So kudos to them. Okay. Now, without any further ado, we'll move on to the first question of the day that we have from Jayesh. Yeah, team, if you could please, kind of put it up. Yep. Okay. Okay. I think there is some. Yeah, fair enough. I'll just put this question across, and I'll let Ramki answer this. How did you transition from being a coder to become the CEO or maybe CTO of Zeta?
Yeah, Mudit, yes, and the quorum. I'm CTO of Zeta, not CEO of Zeta. But yes, uh, I transition. I probably didn't transition. Okay, I'm still a coder. The best days of my job are when I'm programming, although they are few and far in between these days. But I still would love to talk to my team as a programmer, be with the team as a programmer, and that truly is what makes me happy. So yeah, in addition to programming, probably being a CTO of Zeta, I have to play to various responsibilities, and I do fulfill them. And I believe that any such additional responsibilities that I wear and bear, I think they are all my transitioning to them predominantly comes from uh, a kind of a pursuit to make difference through technology. Yes, I can write code, I can create some technology, but what is the end goal of it? What is the purpose of it? Okay, when I just look at it, I just realize that okay, it's not only important to create, but it also need to be delivered. It also need to be delivered to the people in need of it. And with that, I've explored, how it could be done. And I did my very first startup while I was at school in Bits Pilani, and while doing that, we realized that okay, there are lots of motions after you create technology that takes you to the customer and the feedback loop from customer to the technology. So once you just being a programmer, you're a problem solver at the first place, and you just look at now whatever things to be done what is already solved and what is not yet solved. So everything can be articulated as a problem for yourself, and start solving problems. And I think, like, end of the day, it just boils down to that. So for me, the transition wasn't very difficult. I was able to kind of state problems with an appropriate problem statement, and solutions followed. So I think, like, it's about seeing the world, seeing the purpose. If you are able to articulate the purpose to yourself very clearly, you'll find uh, everything in the journey as a problem to be solved, and you'll solve that. That's how I relate it.
Right, right. Well, that's an interesting viewpoint there. But something that maybe probably the audience wants to understand from you, because Zeta is not only just a startup out there; it's really killing it in the financial in the fintech
Yeah.
industry. It's pretty much popular among the banking the financial institutions. So how did you come up with this idea? And I think this brings to the next question that we have shortlisted from the community. Team, if you could please put that up, I'll quickly take it up. Meanwhile, yes, if anyone wants to put up any question, like I can see there are a bunch of people asking questions. That is pretty phenomenal. Keep doing that. We are, my team is taking a note of it, and we'll take it up. Uh, yeah. So this is the next question. What was your initial idea for Zeta, and its goals, and how has it changed over the years? Yeah, if you could elaborate on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for this question, firstly, Mudit and Coach Sheffers. It is a phase in time, when I spent a adequate number of years at Flock and Directi, and wanted to go back to entrepreneurship, find another problem that is worth hundreds of engineers' time to solve. So something that is big, complex, and not ventured into, and something that would have a very lasting impact, and something that is founded in the core technical concepts or technology that is hitherto unknown. Okay, so typically my evaluation of anything to do uh, relies on this. What is a core tech foundation that is not yet attempted, but if attempted, it would change something dramatically for
Hmm.
for the constituents. It could be various customers, clients, whosoever you can call them as. And when I started exploring it, I took a good long from July 2014 till April 2015. That was the break I have taken to explore what to do next, what is valuable that I could get involved into, and did a lot of explorations with Bhavin on various ideas, and stumbled upon this entire notion that, okay, the entire payment networks that world relies on are pretty archaic, and are marred with lots of problems, and lots of issues that make them inefficient, in many cases ineffective as well. So that's like, the number of participants involved in moving money from one place to another place, and how much dated those systems are, the capabilities that are that they could enable. All of these were severe challenges, and they make the entire process very expensive and very time consuming. Therefore I said, like, this is not the way they could be in today's world, and this is not how those systems could be rethought, if you were to start from now. So we just built a lot of hypotheses, validated a lot of things. What are the cause of concerns in these areas, and came up with a thesis where, back in the day, if you just remember 2014, Bitcoin was very popular. It was making waves, but at least I felt that, okay, that's not the way to actually democratize money for the world, because money is very deeply tied into uh, the reserve banks and the economic sovereignty of the country. It can't be taken away from each of the political ecosystems or countries that we have created. So it required a different approach. So built a thesis in terms of how you could actually make money and banking accessible to the whole uh, world, in a much more cheaper and that is cost efficient and effective way, while retaining while kind of eliminating the hurdles that are there. So we built a thesis, Pavan and I. We worked on various models and said that, okay, this is what we would need to start. So that's the background. So by about January 2015, we are sure that okay, this is what we are doing. Okay, so this research phase lasted from close to September to January. We read about as many things as we could about regulation, as many things as we could about payment systems and whatever not that's there to learn about, and built a thesis which takes mobile as a foundation, cloud as a foundation, uh, talks about how you could democratize banking, and created a thesis, and then started building some wireframes mocks about how it all can pan out as a vision for us, and started recruiting people from about February, and we started on April 1st, actually April 1st 2015. And ever since, what has changed? Obviously, what we commercialize has changed, but what we meant remained the same constant thing. We wanted to completely revamp the payment system. So the world that is constant, our pursuit continues there. We wanted to democratize banking, that is constant. Our pursuit continues there. What may have changed is what are the commercial products that we have launched using this framework or theses that we had, and those we have iterated quite rapidly, and a lot of things have been in the market. Several of them succeeded, several of them didn't succeed, and so on. So, but the core of what Zeta was meant to do remained constant, thankfully.
Oh, nice. That's nice. I'm intrigued to ask this particular question. You mentioned that, and I was a bit aware of this earlier as well. That what you and Bhavin did in the initial phase, that was backed by solid research. You mentioned that you kind of did a pretty long research from. I mean, long could be a subjective term, but yes, you kind of did a research from September to January. So, how was that journey like? Was it a stipulated time that you kind of kept? Okay, I have to kind of research for this much time and then jump to the market. How did you take decisions back then when you were just building the foundations of your
Yeah,
system?
yeah, Madhut. We didn't have any stipulated time. I mean, I don't. What we needed was something that we are convinced to do, right? Okay. What we needed was that okay, this is a big enough problem, and more importantly, whatever thesis that we are building, we are able to stand by it. Okay, we are able to critique it, and reason it, and find out that okay, what we are saying has true meaning, true sense, and it need to be done. So that conviction need to be built, right? So it is very easy to say that okay, money is everywhere, and movement of money is a pain, and we'll solve it. Okay, but what exactly does it mean by solving it? Okay, so where does the solution emerge from? Okay, what are the
Mm.
fundamental points, those invariants in your solution that make the pillar foundation for whatever you're going to do thereon, right? So those should be very well researched, well founded, and they should have strong bearing, and should have at least a shelf life long enough that you can call it a company. Okay, you can just create a vision statement, factoring in those things, and deliver the difference that world can enjoy for a long enough time, right? So that required us to go through a lot of factors. Okay, whether it is regulation, whether it is technology, whether it is knowledge of existing products, and so on and so forth. So, and we used to pretty much every day spend an hour. Okay, I used to do a lot of reading, Bhavani used to do a lot of reading, and we used to compare notes, we used to argue, we used to uh, discuss algorithms, data structures also in some cases, but we used to discuss how these things actually come together to make that lasting difference, why one approach would not survive, some other approach would survive, and why what might be uh, looked fairly by a regulator, and what might be actually denied by a regulator. I think like those, a lot of things required answers, and I think it's not a time bound exercise. It's more like by now we know that okay, we have enough to start, and enough to also feel like it will be a journey that is going to be worth our effort. So both of those were the conditions that we were validating, and I think we built that strong conviction before we took the leap.
Okay, okay. Thanks. I mean, this is something that a lot of people struggle with, and thanks for this, this particular answer. I think I'm tempted to take this for a pretty quick, short question that Karan has asked on LinkedIn. What do you love more, technology or managing people?
Personally, I love technology, and I enjoy spending time with people. And more importantly, more complex challenges come from people than from technology. That's true that I realized. So yeah, I think like you should be equipped to manage people and should love technology. That's how I look at the way to do things. So and I do that way.
Okay, okay, thanks. So the next question that I want to pick is, Teja has asked this particular question. It's around Zeta's product. So Teja has this particular question: how your innovation in Zeta's mobile wallet is different from existing mobile wallet, and why? I mean, we were putting it as it is, like for letting you to answer and clarify on that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So there are many things that we did for the very first time. Several of them not commercialized. Karan, is it from Karan who was asking this
It's
question?
from Teja.
Teja, yeah, Teja. We couldn't commercialize a lot of things. People who use Zeta Wallet sometimes make comments that okay, hey, you guys are actually using it as a alpha testing ground for something really big. Yes, and that's how we have done it. Like very foundational thing that you would see is like in many places. Particularly wallets in India, they're just like holder of some money, okay, some small value of money for transactions. We said that okay, that's not a wallet. Okay, you don't put a couple of notes in your wallet. If you just actually open your wallet, the physical real world wallet, you will have multiple cards in it. You will have money in it. You will have your identity details in it. You will have quite a lot of interesting things in it. Okay, each person's wallet is very different. Okay, so what we modeled is that okay, wallet is a collection of sources of money. Okay, places where you can actually keep money, and rather than just actually wallet being the place to hold money itself. Okay, one of the purpose of wallet is to hold money, and at a very foundation level, that made a lot of difference to us. And thereby you would see that, for example, we have created something called supercard. There are a lot of derivatives from this foundational difference. We created something called supercard where you get only one plastic card, but behind that you can link multiple other cards like Visa, Mastercards, Amex cards, or you could link your credit card, your credit account, that is a loan account, overdraft account, savings account, or a prepaid account, all to this single card. You swipe at one place, depending on whatever be the algorithm that you want for that particular transaction. Based on that, it can check which account to actually take the money from. So we commercialize that in employee benefit space, where employee gets one card, but depending on whether they are spending at a fuel station, whether they are spending at a restaurant, the value from their fuel account or a meal benefit account will be debited. Okay, so that is this algorithm is running on the cloud, and depending on the where the transaction is happening, this the money that need to be deducted is chosen from different accounts. This is one difference. Now we have done a lot of stuff. I think like in enabling very complex payment transaction orchestration here. So yeah, that's how at a very fundamental level it is different from what you might see with other wallets.
Okay, okay, fair enough. So I think Sushil has asked this particular question on LinkedIn. He wants to understand about, how does Zeta work? How is, maybe on the tech end, how does it work? If you can elaborate to our programming janta out there.
Okay. I don't know. It's how does Zeta work is a very broad question. Maybe I would interpret it as like what is the technology stack of Zeta? Is that a fair interpretation?
Yeah, maybe let's go with that because yes, it's a broad question, but yes, let's go with the technology stack.
Yeah, I mean, like at the very outset, like we build what we call as AWS for banking. Okay, so in some sense, like we are building the complete PaaS layer, platform as a services layer for banking, and on top of that, we create a SaaS layer for banking, where a bank can come to us and say that I want to set up a bank from day zero of the bank to whatever be the time that they require to service millions of customers. All of that can happen on Zeta. without a bank having to ever touch a hardware machine or touch a software to install. Now it might be pretty commonplace for all of you guys, but it is a remote possibility for a bank that we are making it possible. Okay, so to make that happen, of course, naturally we use a lot of cloud stack. Okay, so we run on Kubernetes, we run our own AWS Lambda equivalent based on OpenWhisk, Apache OpenWhisk. We have a lot of data processing stuff that goes on Spark, Apache Flink, and we do so there is that to it, and a lot of programming happens on Java. Or about 80% of programming happens in Java, with a fair bit of Python and Go where required. And we have a fairly robust architecture which enables us to run across various data centers for banks. Banks are very particular about data security, privacy, and whatever not it is. And more importantly, by regulation, they require the data to be a resident in the country where their banking operation and banking customers are. So as we operate, as we serve customers across close to 7 countries now, so we have the banking of the technology running in as many jurisdictions, so to speak. So it's a very interesting mix of things that happen. But broadly speaking, yeah, we build PaaS and SaaS for the bank, and banks come to us, spin a what we call as a zone for themselves, and do their transactions as though we are just able to send email messages by signing up for Google Suite. Banks are able to sign up for Zeta Tachyon and are able to give credit cards to their customers. They're able to do debit cards to their customers, and they're able to offer savings accounts to their customers, and so on and so forth. So in a nutshell, it's like that, with the flavor of technologies that we just spoke about, and quite a lot of interesting problems to deal with in that space. Yeah.
Thanks for that elaborate answer. Uh, uh, Okay, so the next question that I want to kind of pick up is by Deepak Yadav. He has asked this question while registering for the particular AMA session. He asked, "Is comparative coding relevant enough with respect to the work procedure at Zeta?" This is in lines with what you have mentioned. Do you think CP kind of plays a role here in this entire CP is like comparative programming? It plays a role in this entire scheme of things.
Yeah, competitive programming is a specialized skill, I would say. Certainly, it nurtures you to think about problems and act on them swiftly. And more importantly, when you're acting on them, you take certain parameters into account. Is it efficient? Is it complete? Okay, both of these are constant questions you need to ask as a programmer whenever you are solving the problem. Okay, so being a competitive programmer, these are kind of hardwired into your thinking. That's a good place to be in. Is it sufficient? Probably it's not sufficient, but is it helpful? It's extremely helpful. Okay, being
Okay.
being part of it. So that's so the relevancy can't be understated. So I love it if people from competitive programming picks up a particular problem. I see that, okay, certain traits of that solution are evident. Okay, so it will be efficient, it will be complete. Well, it's just that you don't have a test program validating it. You have to write your test also. That's the only difference. But that, otherwise, I think, it's going to help you in reasonable number of ways at work.
Okay. Okay. As an extension of this, I want to pick this particular question asked by Manish Kumar Mahato. So Manish asks this on YouTube. He says, "What are the qualities that you look for a candidate when you're hiring them?" So I think Zeta is anyway popular for recruiting some of the best tech talent out there.
Right.
But yes, in an objective sense, what are the qualities that you look for?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Zeta is a engineering first company. One thing I say is that, even if you were to be a sales executive, you're probably a programmer at one point in time in your life, and an engineer more sure, for sure to be an engineer. So we celebrate engineering. We kind of want people to think about each problem as though an engineer would think about the problem, which essentially is taking into various constraints, various aspects, of the problem space into each solution that you're proposing. Now, what that being said, the critical things that I would say is I could state them as four things: smartness, whether the person is inherently smart and is able to solve the problems effectively and effectively, very importantly, efficiently, following next and quickly. So those are the things that define smartness for me. And then most smart people need to acquire humility. That's very important in a workplace, especially when you're surrounded by many smart people. Maybe you would learn humility from the air, but it's very important to just be sure that, okay, we could be as good as we are, but also others could be better as well, right? And give that space for people to bring up their ideas, talk to them with a good intent to listen to them fully. Okay, so I think humility plays a very important role in people to collaborate and succeed. So humility is the next thing I would talk about. And third one is hardworking. Okay, so you could be smart, but unless you put in the effort, we would not we would not deliver to our potential. I think, we see it as, delivering to your potential is minimum obligation that we are moral obligation that we all carry. So to be able to do that, we need to be hardworking. There's no two ways about it. That's the third one I look at. And with all of this, to be able to discover problems, to be able to identify right problems to solve, you need to be curious. Okay, curiosity is the fourth thing that I talk about. So unless you're curious, you're always second to someone because someone else is thinking about the problem. Okay, so if you're thinking about the problem, you're solving the problem, then you have everything sorted. So I think, being curious helps you discover problems, helps you discover problems in the solutions, and so on and so forth. I think curiosity is the thing that is going to enable you to progress. Okay, so smartness, humility, hardworking, and curiosity. These are the four things I say.
Okay, okay, thanks. Well, I mean, this particular thing that you mentioned while you were answering this question, that I think this is you mentioned that all of us have a moral obligation to make an impact directly proportional to our potential. I think this is one of those things which really kind of hit me hard when I joined Directi,
Yep.
and I'm really very much fascinated by it. And I think even when I see people at Zeta kind of pushing themselves to deliver the best out there, it is pretty much fascinating. And thanks for answering this question. Okay, so the next question that I want to pick is, now these are more of the qualities that you mentioned about a particular candidate. Now Harsh has asked this particular question: how should someone prepare for a software development interview or an interview at Directi or Zeta?
Yeah, I think the word prepare is, I think, the operative word here. Okay, so it's like this, right, guys? We may be good at 100 things. Okay, but unless we brush up properly, we may not be able to put them all cohesively in one place when someone asks us a question. Okay, should I prepare for this interview on this platform that Modit has enabled, an academy and CodeChef have enabled? Maybe I don't have to prepare my answers, but I need to be mentally prepared to participate in the interview. It might be I'm not creating answers here, but I'm responding to what I already know, but yet I'm prepared mentally to take these questions. So the preparation could vary from just being mentally present to take those questions in that particular place. And in some cases, and which could happen with all of us, is that, okay, in the current engagement at work or wherever we are, we probably may not have had opportunity to exercise everything we know. Therefore, they would have gone to a deeper memory than the peripheral memory that you could call and just answer quickly, because an interview is not about a problem solving with an unlimited period of time. If you it's like, in some sense, participating on a challenge on a code shift, right? You have to solve that in a specified amount of time. Given unlimited amount of time, probably a lot more people would be able to solve those problems. But to be there, you would practice, right? So I think, a preparation practice, I think, is a constant thing, no matter whichever problem that you are going to confront. Okay, if you could prepare for it, why not? Okay, if you know that you're going to confront certain kind of problems, what's wrong harm in preparing for it? That allows you to deliver your best, without having to worry about whether or not you would be able to deliver your best. So I think it's if the operative word is prepare, um, I think we all should prepare for whatever we are going to face. So if we can, then that's great. Yeah.
Great, thanks for this answer. So on this note, like while we are talking about how one can develop themselves to get a job at Zeta, at the same time, I'm tempted to ask this particular question. Like, there is a good amount of people who are pretty much competent. What does Zeta bring to them, bring to the table as an employer? And why should they prefer Zeta over other companies out there? If I would want to hear that from you.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I borrow from what you mentioned, Mudit. Everybody should deliver to their potential. And we have a moral obligation to do that. And to be able to do that, we need an enabling vehicle. Okay. We need an enabling environment. We need an enabling vehicle to deliver our potential and make that impact. I think Zeta could be that for a lot of people. A lot of people. Okay. So because one, you need people equally competent to be able to brainstorm your ideas and validate them with. Before you actually go about investing, you probably want to talk to people, validate those ideas. So you need good people surrounding you. I think that's one thing. When you're at Zeta, you can be sure of you'll be surrounded by really good people that you would enjoy talking to, that you would enjoy brainstorming with. That's one thing that is necessary. Okay, and if you really care to deliver to your potential, that's one thing that a hygiene factor you can't miss out. Okay, I'm not saying that's the only thing, but that's a very necessary thing that you shouldn't ever compromise on. It's like going to a certain kind of school versus certain other kind of school. Why do you evaluate? Why don't you go to any school anyway? You have to spend 4 years, but you try to go to a certain school because at that school you will get like-minded people. You will be able to argue. You will be able to debate. In the process, you learn, right? So that's something that Zeta can definitely enable. That's one very important thing. And the second thing is the problem space, right? What I just see is that um, our problem space is technology itself. We don't use technology to solve, let's say, e-commerce problem. We don't use technology to solve a for example, a delivery problem, supply chain problem. None of those. We use technology to solve for technology. Okay, the challenges of banks are technology challenges. We are a technology provider to the bank rather than we use technology to give a credit or a loan or whatever not it is. Our problem is just solving for technology. It's like, in some sense, building AWS versus building Amazon shopping cart. Okay, both of them are very different. Okay, so yeah, both of them could be from Amazon, but you particularly this community understands the difference between what might take to build AWS versus what might think to do a payment page on AWS checkout, right? There are different challenges. I'm not saying they're a lesser challenge, but this is the kind of challenge that you would face. Building AWS is the kind of challenge you would face while at Zeta. I think that several people love that kind of a thing. So that's something that Zeta gives you an opportunity to play with. And we are people who celebrate engineering. Okay, so I think, like, we go deep and hard at engineering problems, and we have so many releases just thrown uh, off the roadmap because we have engineering challenges that we want to solve and we need to solve. So there are quite a lot of things that we do, dedicated focus on how we develop technology itself. I think that's another important difference that we do. And obviously, you're surrounded by a lot of people who are experts of their trades, okay, in engineering, and you would have opportunities to learn from. It's not like you're left up to your own means of exploration. Well, that is always there. You also have people who could borrow from their experiences, borrow from their knowledge, and take guidance. I think these are the things that while people may be able to say that you can feel very deeply in the air of Zeta when you're working. So those are the things that Zeta uniquely brings to you.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for this answer. I think that that was a very clear and clear, strong proposition that about how Zeta differentiates itself as an employer. Next thing that I want to kind of pick up is Anish has asked us while registering for this particular AMA. He wants to know your thoughts on. So this is again a slightly broad question because multiple avenues are covered. But yes, what are your thoughts on latest trends like artificial intelligence, deep learning, business intelligence? Do you
Yeah.
think will they be in demand in the near future?
Yes, I mean, I think, again, thanks for this question. Business intelligence, depending on how you look at it, probably was around for more than, sorry, 2+ decades already. AI and deep learning are relatively new for commercialization. They have been in the research world for also more than 3 decades. But from a commercialization perspective, they are widely accessed and available right now, given the various other developments that we have enjoyed. So I believe they're mainstay things. Okay, they are not trends that will that to watch out for. They're just like for the practitioners. A lot of people see them as natural things. It's like, whether object oriented programming is here to stay. I mean, that's a paradigm of programming, problem solving. So that's always going to remain. Okay, much like how functional might also coexist, or object oriented programming might also coexist with that. I see AI and deep learning are also the vehicles analogous to that. Okay, they are not going to be trends for short term. They are actually patterns of problem solving, right? In certain ways, certain problems which are, you can call it as probabilistic, heuristic, and non-deterministic in nature. You have to use these techniques to solve those problems. So they are going to be there forever. And as we are able to scale out computation and make more and more computation accessible to everybody at a much cheaper cost, these things become a lot more accessible. These approaches become a lot more accessible to all of us. So you'll see them happening in a lot more simpler things. Today, if you just look at it, there was a keyboard. The keyboard remained, the QWERTY keyboard remained the same for now, I don't know, like 6+ decades, so to speak, from the time typewriter is invented. But that is powered by deep learning now. Okay, so you do a swipe and you get so many suggestions. So in something as common as that, you see deep learning and AI applied. So that's what is going to happen. They are going to be completely pervasive, and you're going to see them everywhere. They're not just trends, they are just problem solving approaches that we all need to work with, we all need to master, right? So that's how I look at them.
Okay, great, thanks. On this note, I think someone asked this particular question earlier. Does Zeta use any of these? I mean, definitely it would use some of these technologies at some of the other place, but does it use things like deep learning in its own tech stack?
Not as much yet. Okay, we don't use deep learning neural networks as much yet, but we have areas like fraud and risk control, which employ some of them. But given the strong authentication that almost all payment transactions go through in India, okay, we didn't have to go really deep into that. But we are now making such investments as we go deal with international transactions, which are generally less secure. We need to rely on these algorithms to make them at least prevent fraud, respond to fraud, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of investment that is expected to happen in the coming few quarters. But as of now, the employment of these has been limited. We have ML. We do fairly good use of machine learning, but deep learning to a very limited extent.
Okay, okay, thanks. So Akshay has asked this quick question. First of all, he says that I have used Zeta and it is quite super cool. Then he goes on to ask this particular question: will Zeta be available for retail in the future? Yeah.
Yeah, Zeta will be available for retail in future, but we are a technology company for the banks. So you'd be seeing various banks giving products powered by Zeta. Zeta itself will not be directly a consumer facing brand. Meaning you will see Zeta brand on everything that Zeta powers. You'll see powered by Zeta. It's like Intel inside. You don't go and buy an Intel chip unless, of course, you're assembling a PC yourself or a laptop yourself, which is relatively rare these days. But back in our days, we used to buy a chip from Intel, buy a chip from Nvidia, buy a chip from whatever not it is, and assemble the PC ourselves. It's relatively rare, but but you nevertheless see Intel inside. Zeta is like that. Okay, hardcore technology that powers large businesses, and you will see them as powered. All those businesses claiming they are powered by Zeta. That's how you're going to see the powered by branding of Zeta. So we have a lot of banks are working with us as we speak, and you're going to see a lot of products incorporating Zeta's technology in their end consumer offerings.
Okay, okay. Thanks for that answer. Uh, uh, I want to take this next question that Joy has asked. I think you touched upon it slightly, but yes, I'll pick it anyway. Joy asked this particular question: since you are closely involved with the fintech industry, what are your thoughts on cryptocurrency? Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Cryptocurrency, I think, like I spent a lot of time way back in 2014, as I was just saying, evaluating both Bitcoin and several altcoins, uh, and I see it as two different things. One is technology, and the other is in terms of the problem that they're trying to solve. Not the technology itself. Technology is means to an end. The means to an end. When I just look at it, I felt that it is. Um, it is met with a lot of challenges to wide scale adoption, right? So what I feel by that is that, okay, money is not independent of economic and political sovereignty each of the countries require to operate. Okay, we have a socio-political ecosystem, and money is very, very tightly weaved into that. Okay,
right,
and you can't just disassociate that from that fabric. Okay, it's hard to stand by in itself. So it's realized by a lot of people, but nevertheless, certain forces try to still push cryptocurrencies, which are not regulated. Okay, uh, but crypto as a technology, the technology behind cryptocurrency could be employed, but there in isolation, if you just look at technology that is behind the cryptocurrencies that could be employed, the wide scale problems that could only be solved with cryptocurrency are fewer. It's a wonderful technology, but there are enough alternatives for the problems that it could be employed for. Okay, enough alternatives that, so therefore it doesn't stand out as a necessary technology. It is valuable technology, but not an essential necessary technology. That's how I look at it, right? So the currency itself does not stand, according to me, according to whatever I could understand over a period. And the technology is not an essential technology. It can also, it's not like, for example, the techniques of deep learning. Okay, where it's a class of problem solving techniques or technology, you may call it as, and they are going to remain. It's like mathematics is going to remain. Okay, but the same thing when I just look at a cryptocurrency, yeah, the cryptography is the technology, the application of that is cryptocurrency. That application, I don't see a long standing one. The cryptography, all the principles of it are very commonplace things. They're there everywhere, and they will be employed. So there are alternative ways in which extracts of this technology could be used, per se. So that's my overall take on the possible on topics related to cryptocurrency.
thanks. Yeah, I think so. There's this question. I mean, it's slightly. I think I'm not sure how you would answer that in short, but I'll still take it up for you have a better insight here. So Deepa asked this question: what are the important points to be kept in mind while converting an idea into product? So you mentioned about the social political factors playing out in the case of cryptos. You mentioned about a bunch of other things related to user behavior while talking about challenges at the consumer end and the banking end. at the end
Right.
of the bag. So, but yes, as a whole, how does one look at it when they are looking to work on this particular problem statement?
Right, absolutely. It's a complex question, and of course, there is no definitive answer. I know, uh, Deepa, you would admit that you're not asking for one solution to this, but I think it is also very important to recognize that it is specific to whatever be the problem area that you're just talking about. Okay, you know, without being too boastful, if you just were to look at, the problem area probably Elon Musk was trying to solve with SpaceX. Okay, the product that is going to come out of it, the gestation period, the tenure, the kind of iteration that he may have to go through, and finally, what is his validation criteria? All of them could be very, very long drawn. Okay, but what you're just talking about is a product that I would expect someone to go away from WhatsApp and use my product for this kind of an interaction. The way to go approach that is, it is probably substantially different from that. So it is very contextual. But what's important is that you need to have a very strong thesis for your product, because this is really what my product is going to be about. Okay, and it could change from time to time, but at any given point in time, you have the strong thesis, and that thesis is validated. How soon can I get to validation of that? And when you're trying to get that validation, how much can I take off my biases out of this and say that, okay, this is validated, or I'm able to validate it, or you be truthful whether you have validated it adequately, for you to say that, okay, this is really the thing I will further go and invest in. Okay, so the time to validate your thing, you be very critical about that. What is my validation condition? That once this idea, when I just put this structure to it, this is, I'm giving this structure. It is not the full blown picture. I have a core thesis that's going to make this work. And if this is the core thesis, this can be validated by a customer, by a prospect, by these criteria that I'm going to use for that validation. Be truthful to that. Be clear about those aspects. And once you see those feedback, then you can say that, okay, this is good enough to commercialize. Okay, that's very important. And then when you go into uh, so then you could say that, okay, I moved from product discovery, now I need to go to product market fit. Okay, so the product discovery exercise, you need to have a strong model that is specific for your product, that would be specific for your product, a strong model that gives you, this is the criteria. If I meet, it is a valid product that I can take to product market fit evaluation. So that's an important phase, I would say.
Okay. Like I'm tempted to ask this particular question. How long did it take for Zeta to achieve its product market fit? I mean, if you can.
Yeah. So Zeta, fortunately or unfortunately, for Bhavan and me, it is not the very first product that we're working on. We operated with we started with the thesis. We're solving for a problem area, not for a particular product. Okay. We did a lot of products based on the problem area, like based on the platform that we wanted to create. We did a lot of products, like, it's just in many cases, Mudit, I give this example. If you just look at Android is not the final product. Android is an enabler for mobile operating systems, for mobile vendors, so as to create a enabling platform of an ecosystem of products, ecosystem of services that people can benefit from, and enables stronger adoption of mobile as a means to interact, communicate, and compute, right? That is the principle behind Android. Okay, when they just conceived, Andy Rubins and others, like they wanted a universally accessible operating system and an ecosystem of applications and services that could benefit a mobile consumer. Okay, so that we accelerate adoption of mobile. Okay, mobile is going to make a big difference, but if we fragment the technology space, what Nokia was doing, what Apple was doing, what everyone else was doing, everyone was creating their small ecosystem. Samsung was doing small ecosystem. That fragmentation actually hampers the widespread adoption. The true potential of mobile will not be realized by world at large. Okay, so if you take that problem statement, you approach the solution by how rapidly can I enable. So our validation point was that if you approach the problem in these ways, how many thousands of applications or interactions or solutions or products can you enable? That was our question. Because as I said, we are a technology company, we are not a end mile company. We need our validation for our technology is that if we do it this way, is it cheap, is it efficient, will it scale, and will it enable, more importantly, will it enable our customers to do hundreds of things that they imagine they could do. Okay, that is our validation criteria. To validate that, we created that products that could be run on the platform. Our employee benefits is one such product, our gifting is another such product. Then we created a dozens of products to demonstrate that these products could be built on this platform that we are trying to build. Okay, much like how Android or Windows, if you just look at it, Windows is demonstrated by shipping a dozens of apps pre-bundled and Microsoft itself built them. Android is demonstrated by building up dozens of apps that they built and said that, okay, Android enables all these things on a mobile device, so therefore it is a worthwhile platform, so to speak. That's what validation for us was. Validation for us was a very long gestation. We had to build a platform. We had to also build various unique businesses or products on top of it and demonstrate that, okay, you know what, you could build a complex benefits business on top of our platform. You could build a complex authentication system, payment authentication system on top of our platform with whatever be the things. So those are the things that we showed as a proof of concepts for our customers. So that's the journey that we have taken. And in the process, our validation was significantly, because it's at a technology platform play, a lot of validation was in brainstorming and prototyping what products can be built on top of it. So we have internally, for example, prototyped 40 plus ways of making payments. Our platform should enable them. Not all of them are commercialized, but validation for us about the platform is that can all possibilities be enabled by the platform? Is it rich enough? Is it going to come in the way, or what it's going to do? So those are our validation criteria.
Okay, thanks. This question has been asked by Shekhar. He asked, what is the single most impact-driven decision you have taken in your career to make who you are today? I think moving on to from Zeta to Ramki as a whole. Yeah.
So single most important decision. I remember this. I mean, particularly very um, uh, back in, I think, 2000, year 2098 to 2002 was my undergrad years. Okay, year 2000, I remember taking my, back in the day, I don't know, you guys may have slam books or not anymore. We used to have these slam books where, whenever we meet some good people or whatever, not when friends depart or whatever, we write. So I used to have this orange slam book, whatever. Uh, Vividly remember what should I mean to the world, or what should I mean to anybody at all. Okay, so I just started jotting down some points, and just realized that, if I'm not creating something, I can't say that I have done something. Okay, so that is like, I might learn a lot of stuff. To what end? Okay, to my self satisfaction. If I'm learning, that's great, but I didn't want to be about myself. I wanted it to be about something bigger than me, right? Okay, whatever I may be, but it should be something bigger than me. I just plotted, what options. I go to higher studies, I go to a good job, I go to whatever be the paths that I could trace. I just looked at all of them, and I felt that, okay, the only means to creating a lasting and valuable impact that is disproportionate to my contribution is to be an entrepreneur. So while it's important to contribute to my potential, but being an entrepreneur, you could, if done right, create a contribution that is even disproportionate to your potential, much greater than your potential, because you are able to streamline a lot of imagination, bring together imagination, aspirations of a lot of people to achieve a lot more greater things. So that's when I chose that, okay, that's the only way to go about with it. Okay, it's nothing shorter than that, nothing lesser than that. So that's the only way to go about with it. So we could all do our great things by being together with our friends, being to with our colleagues. But if you work to mean something bigger than what we each of us could be, collectively we should aim something bigger, and entrepreneurship is an enabling force for that. So that's when I chose that. Okay, that's a vehicle I'll choose. There might be other vehicles, but that's a vehicle I chose. That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Um,
2000.
okay. But then, like you made your first startup around during your undergrad days, as you mentioned, and then you went on to work to start Zeta
Yeah,
around a decade later or so.
right,
So
right.
that was a like long period of patience out there. So, so you can I mean I just want to understand you were continuously preparing for reaching that entrepreneurship stage at with a much powerful skill set at your disposal, or what exactly was going on in your mind back then?
Not quite. I mean, so 2000, I was there. I had to prepare myself because I come from this humble household. We don't have, I think, means to capitalize and means to invest in any business. I needed to build certain capital base. Back in 2000, I had fairly no knowledge of investment bankers, and seed and angel investments are not the not as accessible or known, let me put it that way. Okay, maybe they were there happening in the valley. They were happening in the valley. Google is by then already a very well known story. Okay, and Yahoo's and a lot of things have happened, so there is enough information about that, but I not that I have digged into deep enough. Internet is not as widely accessible back in the day. And you're in Pilani, remember? So so there is only so much access that you got. But that being said, I think, I didn't quite venture into just starting right away, but I wanted to prepare myself, and I graduated in 2002. Okay, that's when for back in the day there was September 11 had happened, and entire economy has dramatically collapsed, and very uncertain times. So that's when I graduated. So 2002, I think pretty much everyone mm, had their job offers pulled off by the respective companies and so on and so forth. So I just what's important for me is that to gain confidence from my parents. They don't know what I was doing in Pilani, and I'm not a 10 pointer. If I were a 10 pointer, people would very quickly understand that I'm studious, maybe. But if you're not a 10 pointer, you need to give confidence to your parents that you are self-sufficient, self-reliable, so to speak, self-reliant. Okay, so I required to show them that, okay, I could get a good job, and show that, okay, I can be relied upon to make my own decisions. So I took that path, did a job for a short stint, and came back to bits again to pursue my masters. That's when I did my uh, first startup. Okay, the BITS announced the first technology business incubation cell. We are the first, me and my friends are the first incubators of BITS, and we started our first venture there. Continued it until 2007. I personally exited. The company exited through an acquisition by a public company in 2008, but I exited in 2007. So that was due to certain personal reasons at home that required me to actually put money on the table. With one of the things with startups is that you not be very liquid. Okay, but you do may have to put some money on the table. So realize that, okay, it's important for me to have certain kind of a minimum level of savings, so that family and whatever may be the critical requirements, they are addressed. So I took a brief period of a break from entrepreneurship, created the stash so that I don't have to, for emergencies, I don't have to rely on anybody. Okay, so I created some stash for that, and thereafter came back to do my venture. So 2007 to 8 9 is when I could say that I'm far away from entrepreneurship, or further away from entrepreneurship. But 2008 is when I joined Directi, and with Bhavin, I never had a feeling that I'm not an entrepreneur. He allowed me a lot of latitude. I was able to make a lot of decisions for Flock, maybe for back in the day, .pw and various things. I mean, I never had that notion. I may be taking home salary, but I never had this notion that I was not an entrepreneur. So it satisfied my aspirations, and after few years there, I said that okay, there could be a different problem space, much bigger, much more ambitious that we could explore. That's when I took the break.
Okay, okay, thanks. I think that was quite an. I think a lot of people go through this particular phase, and one important thing that I kind of caught from your message is that even you graduated back in, in the midst of a financial crisis, and the batch of 2020, 2021 is kind of facing a similar kind of issues at this point in time. So it's like you have a sitting testimony in front of you that. Your future is not getting jeopardized because of one small incident. I mean, it's not small, but yeah, you can eventually make it there.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I mean, Mudit, I think it's a pertinent observation for probably the audience of CodeChef and CodeChefers at large. I do think that okay, the current climate, even if you are seeing some hardships in getting placed and being part of what is the formal job ecosystem, I think it is going to not last too long. Already, I see very strong uh, um, comeback from several companies and recruiting hard. We are recruiting. We interestingly, Zeta grew more than double during this in engineering. We grew more than double in this 9 months of lockdown. Okay, we so much so that if you know what to reopen offices, we can't accommodate all our employees. But yeah, there are several companies which are doing good, and they would be able to offer you really good roles. But at the same time, like even if that means that not too many companies might be there yet. Please don't have to you lose your heart over this. I think uh, it's at least what I thought is a learning journey. Maybe my undergrad program is a 5 year program, and I'll spend 1 more year learning. Okay, several of you probably may have given the time in preparing for a JEE or whatever be the examination that you're preparing for. Think of it that way. It is going to come a long way in making you a much better person, much better professionally, much better person in contributing well to the success of the organization that you're going to be part of.
okay, great. Yeah, thanks for that message. I think we are out of our time. We have a couple of questions. I mean, I'm not sure if you can pick it, but do you have a room for one or two more questions? uh, Ramki,
You could go on with it. I mean, assuming your time permits.
I think this has been an interesting discussion, so I'll take one last question
Yeah.
out here. Okay, so we definitely wanted to time box it to 1 hour, but this is a question that has been asked by multiple people, so I'll quickly pick it up. Folks have asked, skills that are needed on the non-technical end to become a successful entrepreneur. So, if you can, kind of answer this for the audience out there. Yeah.
Yeah, technology or knowledge of technology is an essential, but only one ingredient uh, to be able to execute a successful venture, right? You obviously know it, and that's why you're asking. The way I would say is that okay, there are a lot of functions that are required for a company to work, maybe marketing, sales, and whatever not it is. Each of them are a craft in themselves. So you may not need to be master of all. Okay, first and foremost, for you to succeed as a venture, you need to produce something. Focus on that. What is it that's going to make this company be different, be valuable to its customer, right? So this is what's important is that, okay, to be able to, I'm assuming that okay, you're coming up with an idea. There are, of course, by the way, every company need not be a product company. Every company need not create new technology. Every company need not create new product. There are thousands of opportunities for solving problems for a customers by means of services. India has a huge service economy, and there is a lot of opportunities still unmet there. Okay, but very often startups imply some product or some technology or some kind of a program that delivers to retailers, the retail customers. I think that's how we substantially prejudiced in schools maybe. Okay, but I think there are a lot of opportunities. The space is quite wide outside these. You could consider them. But in all of those cases, what is it that I really want to offer, and how quickly can I validate it? The means to that, one is technology, if you just say. The other is ability to explore those relationships, those contacts, and make those conversations. Okay, big sitting in a box, uh, which I kind of spend a lot of time in. But sitting in a box does not help get your idea across, get your product across, get what problem that you're solving across. So you need to be able to just communicate. You need to be able to socialize your idea and make sure that you're getting that validation early enough. I think that's one skill, if you may call, if you are a founder, if you are the entrepreneur. I think that's very important that you actually focus on that. How effectively I'm able to communicate, and how I'm able to incorporate that feedback as rapidly and as efficiently as possible. Those two traits will take you a long way. Then, of course, ability to attract talent, to get like-minded people to contribute to your idea. So I think the early stage you should just only focus on those.
Okay, okay, fair enough. Thanks for this, word of advice. Just to wrap up, I'll take up the last question that has been posted by Ergo. It's a pretty quick question. I think, how difficult is it for a new company to survive in a $5 trillion economy? So,
$5 trillion economy, or more. Okay, for a new company, it's going to be the same thing. It really doesn't matter what is the size of the economy. You only care about the first 10 customers that you're going to get, first 100 customers that you're going to get, first thereafter first 1,000 customers that you're going to get, maybe. So for you, when you're looking at your product, your solution, it should be about that. It should not be about what are the macros and whatever not it is. Macros might aid, but macros will not make you big. Okay, macros, first you need to focus on product discovery, product market fit. Those exercises don't need thousands of an atmospheric opportunity of euphoria. What they need is, did I identify a problem? Is the problem valuable to be solved for a customer? Will the customer pay for it? Whatever the basic tenets of that. That's what I think you should be focused on. And your space probably is going to be 30, 40 prospects or whatever it is. It's a small digit number. Okay, it is not a macroeconomic problem, macroeconomic opportunity that you would be really worried about in the initial days. Okay, if you're a new company, stay focused to what my product is and who are my initial adopters are. And initial adopters, you don't need thousand of them, hopefully, depending on what you're just looking at. Who are your initial adopters that can give you good feedback and mean what they say, right? So that's the choice that you need to make. And for first several months, it's going to be, life is about them. Life is not about a $5 trillion economy or anything outside this. Okay, so just stay focused until you get your product, until your product discovery is complete. Just stay very focused. And in the product market fit also, you don't have to conquer the world in the first iteration. Okay, you will just take it iteratively. So I think that's a new company can survive as well in any environment. If you're spending 1 million and if you get 10 million back, that's a good outcome. Okay, for a small company. So
yeah.
a small company, and thereafter you look at scaling it. Okay, so focus on that.
Okay, okay. Thanks. Well, this has been a pretty candid and interesting conversation with you. I think while I'm wrapping this up, I definitely need to thank you for being with us today. I thank you on behalf of CodeChef and the entire community which is out there on all the platforms who are watching us right now. Um, but to the programmers, if you like the content, if you want to see more of it, do hit the like button on YouTube. You can subscribe as well and share this video with the ones who you think could benefit from what Ramki shared as an insights from this particular discussion. Thank you everyone. Have a really productive Sunday ahead.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.